The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Mohammed Faheem, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, Chicago, and welcome to the Lightning Strike. Another Sunday morning. It's bleak and rainy out there, and we are going to be touching on quite a few topics today on the Lightning Strike. If you would like to call in and be a part of the show, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. That is 773-763-9278 or WCPT. You can also log online to facebook.com/WCPT820 to follow us on Facebook and have your comments that you want to send in. We'll be talking about quite a few topics today, and it's going to focus more like we started off with the Lightning Strike on September 3rd. Local issues is going to be top of the mind for us today. So just keep it in mind that there are a lot of things happening in the Middle East that people wanted to talk about, and I had like a zillion phone calls and messages saying, are you going to address the issue in the Middle East? Unfortunately, it's beyond my pay grade. But here's what I would like you folks to do is to reach out to your elected representatives and express your concerns and ask them to take action on your behalf. So on our website, which is TLS for the Lightning Strike, TLSchicago.com, we will have links to all the elected representatives all over the country that you can reach out to. We should have that link up by the end of the day today, if not first thing by tomorrow morning. So please go and visit the website and express yourself, express your concerns through your elected representatives. And that would be the best option that I can think of at this point as to what is happening in the rest of the world out there. Our guest of the week today is actually John Argoudelis, and John is in the studio with us, and John will be joining us after the first break at 9:15. And I will have John introduce himself right now so that you know who it is. John, would you go ahead and please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mohammed. I'm John Arena. I'm a former alderman in the 45th Ward. I served from 2011 to 2019, 2 terms as alderman. 45th Ward's on the northwest side of Chicago. I know your listeners are from a wide range of areas. Yep. So northwest side of Chicago, Jefferson Park, Portage Park, up to the edge of the city on the north side.
Wonderful. And John has a deep understanding of Chicago and Chicago politics and issues in Chicago. So we'll have a roundabout with John later on. And we have a couple of people that we will be bringing in. Our person of the week is actually going to be in the beginning like we have always done. And Dylan, I don't see my screen up here. So, okay. So our screen is broken over here, but Dylan is texting me on this. So we've got Kathy is our person of the week, and we'll talk a little bit with Kathy, and Sheila is our segment producer. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning, Kathy. Welcome to the Lightning Strike.
Mohammed, good morning. How are you on this great morning?
I am doing very well. Sheila is trying to stay away out of the rain, so we are sitting in the studio inside instead of being outside in the rain.
Well, you know, I'm really excited to have our guest of the week and our organization of the week today. Her name is Kathy Townsend. And, you know, there's a lot going on within the city of Chicago with crime and unsolved mysteries, things along that line. And Kathy Townsend, their organization works with families that are in crises. They work from disrepair to repair. They work with childhood sexual abuse, crime victims advocates, and a lot of different other organizations that are helping families that have had drive-by, shootings and children that have been caught up in crime. So welcome to the show, Miss Kathy Townsend.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sheila, for having me on this morning.
Good morning, Kathy.
It's a privilege and a pleasure.
Thank you
Good
so
morning.
much for joining us.
You know, Kathy, I want you to talk a little bit about your organization. You're doing a lot to be a part of the solution with children that have been caught up in violence. Talk about what you're doing and the contribution you're making to the community.
Well, we've been doing this now for about 15 years more, and we are a nonprofit organization. And our goal and our purpose is to assist families who have been victimized by having gun violence that has been brought into their arenas, to their homes. And so we could not give them the things that they really would desire, and that's the restoring of their loved ones. But God has blessed us to be able to reach out to these families. And about twice a year we give events where we bring families in, and we have entertainment, we have speakers, we have all types of things to try to help to bring a little bit of light and joy into their lives. And so it has been so beneficial because when they come in, they come in not really realizing. Some of them have never even been out of their houses since their kids have been murdered. And it's a chore at a lot of times. But when they come in and we have comedy, they leave out crying, but yet they have joy. We don't know what they're like when they go home and the lights go off again. But we know that during the time that they're with us, we're able to help them to bring just a little understanding. We bring in speakers, we bring in pastors to come and pray for them, and if they need to have some therapies beyond that, they set that up, and so forth and so on. So we're just excited to be used, that God uses us. We're a small organization, and we have volunteers of all ages. And when I tell you that when we come together, it's a marvelous time. It really is.
So, Kathy,
So because of the issues that...
let me ask you, Kathy, what prompted you to get into this field? How did you get started in this? What is your background?
Well, I got started with it because, for one thing, I'm a singer, so I'm in the avenue of people that have all types of situations and issues. And so it just weighed upon my heart, and I just kept praying and asked the Lord, what can we do? What can I do to somehow help? At that time, it had not hit my home personally, but eventually it did. I had a nephew who was a victim of the same type of abuse, and unfortunately it was through policemen that took his life. And so, but we were already started in the ministry. So that just made me just have a passion to go deeper into it. So when you sit around and you meet these moms and these dads, and you see the devastation that this has left upon the families, it is so overwhelming until sometimes you're speechless. And all we can do is just take it to God and just ask Him to show it.
Okay, so this
is what's going on.
As a non-profit now, what are the challenges you are facing to keep the services going?
We face many challenges because we do this out of our income. We are excuse me, we are seniors, and so we do the best that we can do with our income, and we get out and we ask for solicitation, people donate, and sometimes we might get a few sponsors, but I mean, it's never enough because it keeps growing and growing. And so we just try to figure out so many ways we do fundraising, whether it's by food or whatever the means may be that will help us to raise funds to be able to give out things and to help our people. And now, because of the issues of the state that the world is in today, and we have all the migrants that are in our city and so forth, it's just all over. And so it's so overwhelming. And it's like, Lord, I was praying this morning. I said, well, Lord, I'm trying to sell all these tickets. We have a big event coming up this weekend. But you know what? I'm at a place now where, listen, if I have to give you this ticket to be able to come because you need help, because you don't know where to go or how to go. And sometimes people are just so ashamed. They feel ashamed till they just don't say anything to people, and they walk around with this hurt and this pain. And then the next thing you know, they are also in a situation to either where they might try to take their lives, and they have other children, and the siblings, they don't understand what's really going on within the family structure. It's a never-ending battle. The door keeps revolving.
So,
and
Kathy,
it's like, when does it stop?
If people want to get in touch with you and support your organization, how do they find you?
Okay, they can find me on Facebook, Kathy Townsend with a C, and you can find me. Our ministry name is Townsend Music Ministries. I can be found there. You can Zelle your donation to 773 area code 837-7715. Again, that's 773-837-7715. Or there's an email that you can reach out to.
Okay.
And that email is Townsend, TOWNSEND, MM like Mary, 2003 at yahoo.com.
Wonderful.
That's Townsend, MM, 2003 at yahoo.com.
Wonderful, Kathy. We will go ahead and put your information on the Lightning Strike website also in a couple of days, so people can reach out to you.
Thank you.
Sheila, I've kind of taken over the segment from you on this thing. You got any questions?
Yeah, I guess so. You're doing a good job. And Ms.
You got
Townsend is
any
doing
questions
an
for
awesome.
Kathy?
Yeah, you know what, Kathy, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. And I also want you to know that she works with people within the community. Like I said, she's working with other individuals that are trying to be a part of the solution. That's what's important to know. They're not just standalone organization, but they work within the city of Chicago with other organizations to help make a difference.
Absolutely
yes,
wonderful,
we work
Kathy.
With various support groups.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kathy. Feel free to chime in anytime that you want to share something. It's going to be your show. And folks, we're going to take a quick break and come back on the other side of the break with Kathy had kind of segued into this with the migrant issue that is happening in Chicago. So we'll be tackling that, and we'll also be looking at what is happening in Washington with this brouhaha about our speaker or the non-speaker, and how a few people are able to hold our country hostage when they are supposed to be working across the aisle with each other. Take a quick break, and we'll be back on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. You are tuned in to WCPT, where facts matter. And that is one of the things that I started off in the beginning saying, that we are not going to be talking about things which are not factual, that we don't have the right information on. On that note, I've got John Arena in the studio with me today. And John, let's start off with the migrant crisis, especially. First off, it is a crisis. There are a number of people coming in, and they're being buzzed into Chicago. Mm-hmm. You have been on the city council of Chicago. How would you have handled it if you're still on the city council?
Well, I mean, one alderman, can't solve the problem of a city this large. I think the key for our representatives is being part of the conversation, being more informed than the average citizen, making sure that they're doing their homework and not taking ideological stands, because this is something that is part of a larger political game that's being played by the hard right in this country to create crisis and then point to the crisis and say, see, sanctuary cities don't work. See, I mean, that's the fundamental game that's being played here by some of the southern states like Florida and Texas.
Right?
Abbott this is a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think, the job of service as an elected official is about working with people and understanding that everything you do at some point has to be applied to the human element, right? And we have people, these are people that for whatever reason that they've migrated to this country, they are going through a legal process to seek asylum.
Okay.
And that has to be held first and foremost in front of everything that our elected officials do as we make decisions about dealing with allocating resources to address the problem.
And on that note, I like the way that Mayor Brandon Johnson has used words. He's calling them not migrants or illegal immigrants. He's using the word asylum seekers.
Exactly.
And we have also Ken DeLuke would be joining us shortly on the line to discuss these issues. As soon as Dylan comes back into the studio, he'll bring Ken up. And Dylan, if you could please have Ken join us on the line. And Ken has always, been co-piloting the show with me. And Ken, good morning. You're on the lightning strike.
Good morning, everybody. And I totally agree with the Alderman.
Oh, thank you.
There's a certain sense of empathy you have to have for these asylum seekers. It's not by choice. They just decided up and want to come here for reasons outside they want to survive. And it's really important that we offer them that sanctuary.
Ken, on that note, you know that I always like to play Donald Trump's advocate. We don't use the word devil's advocate, John.
You just substitute
on the show.
The physical manifestation of evil.
we just used the representative's name on this show. Joliet is a case study that is going on right now. The governor announced a grant of $8.6 million to the city of Joliet to provide migrant services. Mm-hmm. The grant application was actually applied for. The grant was applied for by the township supervisor, and Angel Contreras is his name. And the city of Joliet, on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, there was a meeting with standing room only. About 350 people in the community came out and say, we don't want this money. We don't want the migrants coming into our city. The mayor of Joliet is also against accepting that money. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of angst happening. And a lot of people are saying, hey, $8.6 million to provide initial services. What happens afterwards? Once that money is gone, Joliet has got our own issues. And I think by extension, we can take it to the rest of the city also, to Chicago and other areas, which are sanctuary cities. $30 million or something, $38 million, I believe, were grant money into Chicago. What happens after that?
Well, that's the challenge, and I think you look to the budget that was just proposed by the Johnson administration, has $150 million in it. Mm-hmm. And to give it some context, during the summer, there was debate about $50 million that was going to be used for just the summer months,
right,
to cover the cost of housing these asylum seekers. So $8.5 million is a drop in the bucket, and $150 million is not enough to address the problem. Bigger context is the city of Chicago has a $13 billion budget.
Okay.
So, but what we know for sure is that emergency services, no matter who they're applied to, are the most expensive services to provide that government provides. So when you are dealing with a situation where you don't have lead time to do competitive bidding, when you have, winter months coming up and you have to find housing for this number of people, when we have 60,000 children that are homeless in the city already, you can see that, this is a crisis, and we have to find every dollar we can to address it. But we have to have conversations about why this is happening, and we have to keep in mind that as the winter comes this crisis is just going to get worse if we can't just bury our head in the sand and say we just don't want them.
Right.
That's not a solution to the problem. It has to be about discussion, and it has to be about setting priorities near, mid, and long term.
Well, John, I also know that South Shore residents have refiled a lawsuit that aims to stop the city from housing asylum seekers in public buildings, such as police stations and schools. Again, my question is, we have a bucket, but it's a leaking bucket. How long can we continue to provide services? The issue that is happening is a lot of the people, especially in the inner city areas, are saying, we need services also. Mm-hmm. And we have been, not receiving services that we needed. And suddenly the city finds this pot of money to provide services to the asylum seekers.
There's actually another side of this story. If they were to take not just money to provide the services in the short term, but to do some type of training, Chicago is starving for people to work. There's restaurants that are closing down because they have nobody to work in the kitchens. There's companies that need labor in a major way. If they were to take that transition period and take some of that money into starting to fulfill the needs of the city, they're going to be a value added and actually provide more money in the coffers down the road for future immigrants.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the challenge is the federal policies that say these folks cannot work right now, that they have to, there's a process they have to go to, then they have a 6 month waiting period, and you just saw the Biden waiving for limiting it to Venezuelan migrants, allowing them to get work permits, once, in a much more expedited way. These folks want to work. They didn't come here to want to sit in front of the 16th District Police Station or any police station. They will work. The problem is there's policies at the federal level that don't allow that to happen. And when people work, it creates economy, it generates revenue for the city, whether they're asylum seekers or whether they're long-term residents. Mohammed, you talked about the folks in neighborhoods that have been disinvested systemically for decades absolutely have a right to speak up and say, you closed my school 10 years ago, did nothing with it, and now you want to reprioritize it for this use. We have to have that conversation. We have to be honest about that, but we also have to look from here forward. If we do revitalize that building, whatever it is, then it is in a state that is better than it was the day before this crisis started. Mm-hmm. Then we talk about what do we do with it going forward once we're beyond this crisis. But we have a humanitarian issue that has to be addressed. And when we talk about this in terms of where we find the money, if a storm rolls through Chicago and knocks down trees and sewers get blocked, whatever it is, we find the money to address that emergency situation. The city budgets for these things, right? Okay. You apply for federal aid. There's so many different ways to cover the cost of emergencies. And if we look at it in that context, we have no problem saying, you know what? Roads are blocked, trees are down, people are in danger. We find the money for that. This is the same situation. The money gets found to address the emergency. Okay. And then at the same time, we have to be having longer term conversations about how are they housed? Can they work? Can they be part of our the fabric of our community? And I think that's what they want. And if we have honest conversations as we go through this process, I think that's what the folks on the South Side want, or the West Side. Okay. We want to be a welcoming city. If we all pull back and say, I want to keep my arms around, my resources and deny others, then we're falling right into the plot that folks like Governor Abbott are putting on us, saying, you see, sanctuary cities don't work. Well, yeah, I mean, if you create a crisis and then point to the crisis and say, you see, that's why your policy doesn't work, that's disingenuous. If we fall into that trap, as a city, then we're just allowing their manipulation and using these people as political pawns to be the end game for somebody like Abbott.
Okay, folks, you're listening to the Lightning Strike. I've got John Arena in the studio with me and Ken DeLuke on the line. And if you have any questions, feel free to call in on this subject. We are talking about the migrant issue in Chicago and other sanctuary cities and the challenges that we are facing and likely to face with winter coming in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. You're listening to the Lightning Strike. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back on the other side of the break.
Are you tired of high energy bills and concerned about the environment? It's time to embrace solar power. There's no one better to guide you than Ken DeLuke. Ken DeLuke, your trusted solar energy consultant, is your key to a brighter, greener future. With years of experience, Ken knows the ins and outs of solar power like no one else. Ken DeLuke will help you save big on your energy bills while reducing your carbon footprint. Ready to make the switch? Contact Ken DeLuke today at 312-617-8979 or shoot him an email at kj@midwestsolutions.info. That's KJAY@midwestsolutions.info. Ken DeLuke, solar energy consultant, empowering you with clean, sustainable energy solutions. Don't wait. Make the call today. 312-617-8979.
Are you a business looking for the right talent or a job seeker searching for your dream career? Look no further than the Center for Strategic Solutions, your workforce solutions experts. Our experienced team at the Center for Strategic Solutions is dedicated to connecting employers with top-tier talent and helping job seekers find opportunities that truly align with their goals.
You're hired.
We're more than just consultants. We're your partners in success. Ready to take your workforce to the next level or land that ideal job? Contact the Center for Strategic Solutions today at 1-847-306-9274 or visit us online at www.cfss.us. The Center for Strategic Solutions, your bridge to a brighter future in the Windy City. The number to call is 847-306-9274 or send us an email at info@cfss.us. That is info@cfss.us.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. I am your host, Mohammed Faheem, and the music is like blasting right through my ears at this point. You're listening to WCPT 820 AM, Chicago's progressive talk radio station, where facts matter. And on that note, I've got a caller calling in. Good morning, Amin. You are on the line.
Peace be with you.
Peace be with you too, my friend. So you are living in the Joliet area, I believe. And what is your take on what is happening in your fine city out there?
Okay, they're having the same issues here regarding the migrants. A couple things I would like to say. First of all, especially amongst Bilalians, or most people think of as African Americans, we were once in the same situation that a lot of these migrants are in. When we don't think it was coming from country to country, but if we remember our history, when we came from the south to the north, we were migrants, and we ran into the same attitudes. So we shouldn't forget our history. But more importantly, all human beings that have a moral compass should remember one thing that God tells us. He tells us that the earth belongs to Him. This earth belongs to God. It's not for us to determine who should be where, but it's more for us to determine how we can help those wherever they are. As far as for the money, I would say this. If we, again, look through our history, we find that the United States, or any other country, they can find trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars for war, to kill people, to hurt people. But when it comes time to finding a few $1 billion, if you say, a few $1 million to help people, there's always this big discussion. We can't find it. We don't have it. Let's take the money we use that put aside for killing and hurting people and put that to helping people, and we'll find that there's less problems in the world.
John, what do you have to say to that we refocus our priorities and do things locally rather than, try to police the rest of the world?
Well, we have a role in the globe. I mean, I think this is a challenge we see. But, I mean, to his fundamental point of redirecting resources from weapons of war towards ways to create peace and stability for other human beings, I can't support that, too much. That's a fundamental problem that we have. We never question the amount of money that goes towards our military. That's a vote of acclamation. Mm-hmm. But and I saw this in city council. The dissecting every dollar spent on local programs or things that we need for people always gets a dollar. How much does it cost? How are we paying for it? So we need to reframe that, and this crisis comes from a set of policies that is so antiquated in our immigration system. Mm-hmm. For example, some people say, well, come here legally, these are asylum seekers. They are coming here legally. There is a process to apply for asylum. But the bigger challenge is, for example, Mexico, the country is only allowed to bring in 20,000 people from Mexico through the legal immigration process.
Okay.
I mean, that is so antiquated, right? We know we need, as the caller pointed out, we need workers. We need people to fill the jobs that our businesses, are offering. Our unemployment rate is incredibly low, and we have people who want to work. We need to reform the policies. We need to expedite, not just for one, people originating from one particular country, mm-hmm. but from wherever, expedite their ability to come here and work and to generate economy for themselves. When people generate economy, when money moves, then government, benefits from that. And then we have more resources to put to addressing the issues, whether it's a long-term issue like what do we do with those closed schools, or the emergency situations like we see right now.
Okay, sounds good. Ken, you want to comment on what John just said?
Yeah, I agree 100% with him. And it's really funny when certain administrations are in power, spending money for tax cuts or for whatever is absolutely no problem. Then all of a sudden, if the situation changes, now every dollar has to be accounted for. Oh, my God, these deficits are going to kill the economy. It's kind of a false flag, and it's just there's money out there to do what we have to do, and we really do have to address the policies, the immigration policies, and more importantly, the working programs, because that's a need that everybody has right now, and we can fulfill that need, and it's a win-win for everybody, included.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, you want to comment on the discussion as what we have been talking about?
Yeah, I just want to again mention the concept that the earth belongs to God, mm-hmm. and that what we have as different countries are just lines that man has drawn. But what about the whole idea that the earth belongs to God, not to any one of us?
Okay, I think that is a discussion by itself that we can take the rest of the month to talk about that concept. And on that note, folks, you are listening to the Lightning Strike on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. We're going to take a quick break and come back on the other side of the break and talk about what's happening in Washington.
Are you tired of high energy bills and concerned about the environment? It's time to embrace solar power. There's no one better to guide you than Ken DeLuke. Ken DeLuke, your trusted solar energy consultant, is your key to a brighter, greener future. With years of experience, Ken knows the ins and outs of solar power like no one else. Ken DeLuke will help you save big big on your energy bills while reducing your carbon footprint. Ready to make the switch? Contact Ken DeLuke today at 312-617-8979 or shoot him an email at kj@midwestsolutions.info. That's KJAY@midwestsolutions.info. Ken DeLuke, solar energy consultant, empowering you with clean, sustainable energy solutions. Don't wait. Make the call today. 312-617-8979.
Planning to lay off employees is never easy. Discover the Center for Strategic Solutions, your trusted partner in outplacement services. Are you a company in transition or an individual seeking a new opportunity? Our Chicago-based team specializes in providing personal outplacement services to employees. At the Center for Strategic Solutions, we're not just consultants, we're dedicated to your success. Ready to navigate change with confidence? Contact the Center for Strategic Solutions today at 847-306-9274. Visit us online at www.cfss.us or email info@cfss.us. The Center for Strategic Solutions, empowering employers and job seekers for success in the heart of Chicago.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike. And the number to call in is 773-763-9278. With me in the studio today, John Arena, who is formerly on the City Council for the 45th Ward, I believe, in Chicago. And John knows Chicago politics inside out. But, John, let's segue back to what's happening in Washington now. The House Republicans on Friday voted to make Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio the next nominee for the Speaker. Now, Jordan has been endorsed by former President Donald Trump and is chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and he finished second to Rep. Steve Scalise. Do you think that is going to stick when it comes to the rest of the House?
No, the Republicans have a really difficult path forward here. And I think this whole process that started with the 15 votes to get to some unanimity on McCarthy, but allowing for one member to bring forth a vote of no confidence. Now this is playing out. Now, if a guy who gets 99 votes out of 218, which was I think Scalise got 112 maybe.
Yep.
What is his path to a majority? What we've seen with him in the Judiciary Committee is the dog and pony show, the political acting out, the kind of incoherent approach to governance. I don't see how he coalesces, the votes he needs, but I also don't see another individual coalescing those votes as well. I mean, this is the challenge of the Republicans, the infighting that they are dealing with.
Well, the former
is chronic.
The former speaker also says, I am willing to come back. Tyree, you've been sitting very quietly, man. What's up with you?
So, like I've been reading, so basically the House Speaker has been without a speaker for about 11 days, 18 hours, as it says on the website.
Okay.
So the reason that they don't have a speaker, obviously, because they ousted Kevin McCarthy, who was the former speaker, because pretty sure they ousted him for being what they call a rhino, which is Republican in name only, which means they kind of like a traitor to Republican views. So they ousted him out for that, and now they're trying to find a speaker. And like you said, they did try to nominate Republican Jim Jordan, who was an advocate for Donald Trump recently.
Okay.
So that's all.
Well, without a speaker.
Here's the deal. They need 217 votes. Basically, Jordan cannot afford to lose more than 5 of his own caucus, and there's already about 25 in his caucus that said they don't want him. It's not unconceivable if they decide some of the caucus just not to vote. I mean, it isn't with the realm of possibility that Hakeem Jeffries could actually ascend to be the speaker, which would be a very interesting situation. And I wish that would happen.
We are in uncharted waters, so This is the first time a speaker's been ousted, and and look, I think the path for McCarthy to come back, and this is a very slim path because he had cut a deal with the debt ceiling,
right,
with the Democrats to back.
And then the Democrats pulled the rug out from under him.
Well, the Democrats didn't do that. He had made a deal to avoid this crisis, to get a budget together, and then he reneged on that. So there's Democrats that don't trust him. The only way you could create a government where the Democrats support any Republican is a power sharing agreement. They would have to get committeeships. Now, what this looks like on the other side there are Republicans, and then there are, to Tyree's point, there's Republicans, and then there's what we're seeing in this far-right contingent, which is just unhinged. They don't want government. They want authoritarianism. They want to be able to say, what I want today, I get, and what I want tomorrow, I get, and if those two things conflict, that's fine. That's not governance. That's being a child demanding, your ice cream before dinner.
Right.
So this is the challenge we have right now.
Well, that's the thing, folks. And I keep on harping on the lightning strike that, you get the government you elect. Please make sure that you research who you are going to vote for, and not just research, go out and vote. A lot of people don't go out and vote, and then they expect things to change, and then they complain about it. John, that's been one of my pet peeves now. In the last election, consolidated election that happened in Will County, 18.8% was the voter turnout.
Yeah.
That's less than 20%. So we are letting the tail wag the dog over here. And that is across the country, I guess it's about 25% is the voter turnout in especially in midterm elections. If people don't come out and vote, then you don't have any right to criticize. And that's why we have, and I've used the word jokers in the past. I would qualify that and say we have got clowns in the Congress at this point. And they're just taking over the asylum now.
Yeah. And you really got to look at the structure of the House. A district is, in Illinois is about 114,000, 115,000 people, or maybe probably more for that's the House.
Yeah, the congressional district is about 176,000.
176,000.
Yeah.
So you look at a Matt Gaetz, who represents 176,000 people in a country with 360 million people, and he's ousting the speaker, and stopping government from. So the majority of Americans want compromise. They want people to work together. That's the constitutional structure we have. But we have folks on the far right saying, no, we want minority rule, and not just 49%. We want 4% to decide what the direction of the country is, and that's not a system that's functional. Yeah. And I think that's where if it were to come out that there were a power sharing agreement between Democrats and Republicans, how different would that be to every government, democratic government? Most governments across this globe have governments that are power sharing agreements.
Right.
You have more than two parties, and you don't get to a majority unless you find ways to bring people into a coalition.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, India, for example, one of the largest democracies in the world, we don't have a two-party system in India. There's like multiple parties. And so moderate Democrats now are calling for changes to empower a temporary speaker. What do you think about that now? The Blue Dog Democrats, for example. It's the Blue Dog Coalition made up of centrist Democrats, endorsed a letter from Democratic members of the Problem Solvers Caucus Executive Council that called for expanding the authority of the Speaker, pro tempore, to avoid a government shutdown next month. Because remember, November 15th, we are facing that same silly situation again that happened recently, that the government is going to shut down. And now with no speaker in place, man, how's that going to play out?
Well, I mean, this is a problem created by the hard right Republicans. I don't love that solution because it basically says go ahead and act out, but we're going to reward you by allowing the system, a non-speaker, somebody who isn't elected by a majority, to go forward. And when do you come out of that? I think that's a very dangerous approach. Mm-hmm. And those are the Joe Manchins of the world who have a lot of controversy around where their money is and how they make decisions. I like the idea of compromise, but compromise to get to a temporary, how do you trust that person is going to represent the majority when he's just a gavel holder? He's not a legitimate leader of the House.
Well, Ken, you brought up the name of Hakeem Jeffries, right? A Democrat from New York. And he said recently about Jim Jordan that Jim Jordan was the chairman of the Chaos Caucus and an extremist extraordinaire, okay? And so these guys are like, hey, I'm going to take the ball. It's my ball. I'm going to go home with it. It's my game.
Well, when you take an election denier and you see the vehemence that he has in these hearings that he's been doing and everything else, it's scary. It is legitimately scary, that someone like that could be in a position of power. Who knows? Maybe he puts on his big boy pants if he actually ascends to that level and decides to act like a real person, but I don't have trust that that's ever going to happen. Realistically, we should just eliminate the debt ceiling. That's half the problem we have here. You got this thing that's hanging over everybody's head that they can use at their whim to literally screw the country around, and there's no reason for it. The debt ceiling is artificially made. It's not part of the Constitution. It just should be gone.
Well, it is actually one of the parts of the deal that they cut when McCarthy 6 months ago when they were going through this was through 2025 there is no cap on the debt ceiling. So you're right. We're experimenting with that right now, and you're absolutely right. It does not need to exist because it just creates an opportunity to create crisis. So that's really off the table. The challenge is part of that deal was a budget agreement, which has never really been the process. And now the hard right who didn't like that they didn't get everything they want are coming back to the table saying we want everything we want. And at some point, you got to tell the child you can't have dessert before dinner, and you got to hold the line. And you've got to say, I think if the Democrats stick together, and if we do, unfortunately, come to a place where we're either at the precipice of closing the government down, or we go into a government shutdown, that's where the opportunity is to say, look, the cooler heads have to prevail. We have to find a way to work together. The middle of this country wants that to happen, and that's the vast majority of folks in Congress as well. But they have to find a way to get back to trust, and because there's been so much breach of trust, you make a deal, and then the next month you're breaching that deal.
And John, we have an election coming up next year, and there is a lot of talk about having a third-party candidate step up, which is going to be very difficult. I know that Kennedy has thrown his hat in the ring now.
That's a scary premise. I don't know about. I would put forward that we have three parties right now. We have Democrats, we have Republicans. The historical context of a Republican that we could work with, and they are in Congress. They are in our world. There are people who are conservative-minded but rational, and then you have this MAGA hard-right Republican, which is just authoritarianism and a rule of minority. And that's our challenge. We do have, without having Trump isn't the head of the Republican Party. Right?
Well, he's the de facto head of the party at this point, right?
Hey, Alderman, let me ask you a question, Alderman.
Sure.
At first, we were talking about this third-party situation, and it was kind of scary thinking they may take votes away from the left side of the aisle. But now that I'm thinking of it, there's probably a lot of people out there that are anti-Trumpers, and they cannot make themselves vote for a Democrat. Isn't it completely possible that third party can drain from the MAGA side of the aisle and actually help out a progressive cause?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's possible. I think the challenge is there's a growing percentage of folks who do not identify with either party. They consider themselves independents, and that's where elections are really won, especially on the national level. So I think you're right. If there's enough folks that are reasonable and say we cannot go to authoritarianism, I can't vote for Trump, but the challenge is if there's a moderate Democrat that isn't aligned with Biden, that's where the drain comes, and then we get into the challenge of a hardliner, slipping into the White House again.
Okay, and on that note, John, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today, folks. Our guest has been John Arena, and our person of the week was Kathy Townsend. You are listening to the Lightning Strike on WCPT AM 820 or 820 AM. Chicago's progressive talk radio station. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. Do join us every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10, and do visit our website, tlschicago.com, and you'll have a list of all your elected representatives with their contact information that you can reach out to and show your concern for what's happening in the country and around the world, especially in the Middle East. On that note, thank you all for joining us. Tyree, thank you for joining us. And Dylan, thank you for running the boards again this morning, my friend. Thank you very much. Over and out.